Sometimes there is a type of tiredness that sleep just does not fix. If this resonates with you, carry on listening. Hi, I am Jane Elizabeth. I'm the host of The Voices Wellbeing episodes. Today, I have with me the wonderful Ashley Green. Ashley is a former teacher and founder of Greenheart Wellbeing. So, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on today.
Oh, thanks so much for
Yeah,
having me. It's so nice to be here
no,
and to
it's
chat with
fine.
you. All things well-being.
All things well-being. I mean, that I have such a passion for well-being, and it's so bizarre how we met, really,
I
isn't
know. I know.
it?
Because when we came to do this podcast, we're like, we've met
We've
before.
met before, but
Yeah,
yeah. And then I remembered we were sat next to each other at an event, and I think we
exactly.
went straight into a deep conversation
Yeah,
there as well,
we
didn't
did.
we?
We did. Talking about,
Yeah,
again, all things well-being and what
yeah.
matters for
And what
people.
matters.
Hmm.
And one of the things, I offer like a safe space for honest conversation
Hmm.
on this podcast, and I think it's important to realize that this is somebody's life. It's not just content that we're creating, this is
Yeah,
actually somebody's life.
so
And
true.
yeah, and I did the same. I took the leap of faith from the corporate to well-being. So I'd love to hear your story. So tell me,
Yeah.
what gave you the push to finally leave the corporate world into well-being?
So I was a teacher here in
Yeah.
Dubai for 12 years, and I had come over at age 25, one suitcase, having never
Yeah.
been to the UAE or anything before, because at that time there was no jobs in Scotland, no
Mhm.
teaching jobs. So I ended up here, loved it, learned so much, because obviously not only are you learning how to live in a different country, you're learning about yourself, you're learning about work and teaching. And when I look back, there's always been this constant thread of like caring for children in the pastoral way, as we used to call it, circle time and
Yeah.
all that. And I felt it was so valuable. I then ended up working in a really high performing school. Loved it. It was hard, like all teaching is. And that's one of the things I'll always say, so difficult. And I don't think people realize. And long story short, I got way more involved in the well-being side of things. I started introducing mindfulness practices to my classroom. Then it became bigger and it was in the whole school. Then I went to China with the KHDA presenting on wellbeing in 2017. And when I was there, I spoke with a head teacher who talked about a new master's that he was doing, positive psychology and coaching psychology. So I started that. Also did my yoga teacher training that year.
Fantastic.
And then I just had this light bulb moment like, oh my gosh, here is science of well-being that I
Mhm.
didn't know anything about before, and why are we not teaching kids this
Mhm.
stuff, like why?
It
So
is
then
really a light bulb moment, isn't it?
yeah, it is. And then also, it's like you go through your own mental health struggles.
Mm.
Again, coming back, my family were all in Scotland, having never lived outside the family home until I came
Mhm.
here, So I really, in parallel, learn about myself, mental health struggles, and then COVID. And all through COVID, I was living here by myself. Everyone's got a COVID story that
Of
was
course,
difficult
yeah.
and hard, and the worry and the stress. So eventually, that did, when we all went back to school and everything, towards the end, had really hit burnout.
So, question, did you know when you'd hit burnout what burnout actually was?
Not, not at all. Now, kind
Because
of going back to what you were saying before, I always knew once I'd approached well-being and experienced it and it became my thing, I knew that that was going to be my leap. That's
mhm.
what I was going to end up working in. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know what it was going to look like, but the masters and everything, kind of led me in that path. And then I had never planned in that journey for burnout to be like a thing, you know. And if I'm saying this correctly, burnout isn't actually a clinical diagnosis. It's not recognised yet in the DSM-5, which is where the psychologists would find the diagnosis codes and whatever. But it's a very, very real thing, and
It
we
is.
all, if we haven't had the experience ourselves, we've all know someone who has experienced it. And like you said, you don't know what it is. Like you're trying to function and pour everything you can into what you're doing. I did because teaching, and the kids always came first. But I was still managing to keep everything going, but didn't realize my decline was like happening, and it's not until I went to speak to a therapist, which I'd spoken with previously in
Yeah.
different stages of life, but when I got there, they were like, okay, this is actual burnout. Like you've hit a point now. Yeah.
And I think people use the term burnout loosely sometimes, don't
Mm,
they? After a bad week, they go, "Oh, I'm burnt out." But
yeah.
I think from being there myself, I
Hmm.
worked in corporate, and you hit on something there. It's because you care
Yeah, that's it. And you,
and you take on more responsibility because you care.
mm-hmm,
You're trying to protect everybody else, so you're doing more and more.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but I could get up, put my makeup
Yeah,
on a morning, go in and smile. Nobody would have had a clue.
yeah. And
Nobody
that's
would have
it.
a clue. But inside, I was screaming.
Yeah, and that's part of the danger of it as well, and it's like what you said, you're trying to function optimally without the capacity or without the resources or without the things that are helping you do that.
Yeah,
And it just becomes like something's got to give.
something's got to get. Did you feel?
Mm.
I did. Did you feel that if you were to tell somebody, you would be, they would judge you and you would be failing and you couldn't handle your job?
Yeah, to be honest, in the school that I was in, I was really lucky because everyone was so supportive. I think they might have seen the cracks were starting to show before I recognized it. And because I'd been there for a long time and I was there for a long time for
Mm,
a reason,
yeah,
it was a great place to be. So I actually felt really supported. But
that's
again,
good.
I know, but part of the work that I do and in well-being and what I was learning, I knew the power of having to reach out and speak to someone, So even though there was therapy, but then eventually I spoke with people in my work and they were so supportive. So I feel I'm like one of the lucky ones because
Hmm.
also I hear it's the other side where, like you said, nobody would have a clue, nobody would know because you're
Hmm.
continuing to try and keep all this plate spinning. And then it can be scary to be like, well, this is my job. So if I can't do it or I show any weakness, am I going to lose the
Am I going to
job,
lose the
which
job,
is the
or I'm not good
livelihood?
enough?
And
I can't handle it,
yeah,
and that adds to all the pressure, doesn't it? So,
exactly.
what did burnout actually look like to you? What was the worst point? What was the lowest point you hit with burnout?
Yeah. I mean, I think like stress for sure,
Yeah.
because again, the all the things that happened around COVID and school looked completely different. It's not
Mm.
what we had experienced ever before,
Mhm.
but also being so far from a family and worrying about it. So for me, it was anxiety. It manifested as full blown, diagnosed, medicated anxiety,
Mhm.
and um, thankfully I've kind of came through the other side of that
Mhm.
now. But that is how I would say it led to that. It was just coming home from work and sleeping from exhaustion and then dreaming about the things that I had to do. It became like the soul
An
food.
obsession.
Yeah, and it kind of overtook everything. I mean, not to say I didn't still go out with friends
Of
and things like
course,
that.
yeah.
Like I tried to maintain, as much of normality as I could. But yeah, I'd say that then once I'd actually handed in my notice because I knew there was a wellbeing centre they offered me a place there as a
See,
coach.
similar. There's so much synergy there,
Yeah, I
isn't
know,
there?
it's like really
That's
similar
exactly what happened.
journeys.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like I still had a lot to get through in terms of the terms to
Mhm.
work, but I could almost see like a new pathway, and that gave me something to kind of focus on.
It's like the light at the end of the tunnel, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you
although
can
I was
see.
really sad to leave the school, but I thought, well, this is going to either make things worse because it's like a big, massive, scary
Mm.
change, or it's going to be the making of the next chapter,
Yeah.
and thankfully it did work out that way. But I think also another thing about it is when your soul is drawn to something new, or it's maybe not maximizing the work that it wants to do. So for me, it was well-being, and yes, I was doing lots in the school, but I wasn't reaching the impact maybe that I wanted to. So it became uncomfortable, and maybe that's where the burnout and the anxiety came. It was like no longer comfortable to be in that space or that role or what I was doing. So the world or the universe or however you want to call it made it so uncomfortable that I had
Yeah.
to take a leap.
Yeah.
And now I feel completely different, So it's not so much the school made me burn out. Like, I want to be very clear, it's not that, because I was lucky, like I said, and had a really supportive team.
I
But
think it's ourselves sometimes, isn't
yeah,
it? We take on too much and we care and we
yeah,
can't switch off because we don't want to fail, but
yeah,
we also don't want anything else to happen to, we don't want anything to
yeah,
happen to somebody or
yeah.
taking the pressure off somebody else, but then you're
Well,
you're
that's it.
carrying it, aren't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, you are. And again, during that kind of time, and if you are on your own, you don't want to burden your family who are away in another country because then they'll worry
No,
about you. You don't want to burden your friends. You know, you want to try and have some social fun
of
and
course,
light and
yeah.
everything. So it can become an isolating place
It
at
can.
times, you know. So,
Yeah, and I'm not a teacher or been
mm,
an educator in any way, shape, or form. However, I've listened to hundreds of
yeah,
them. It's
yeah.
very strange when I look back working in the wellbeing centre.
Mm,
I only just realised that the majority of my clients were actually teachers.
yeah,
And, I don't always think that people understand what goes on in the background.
yeah.
A lot of people think, oh, you're on your holidays, you've gone out to Dubai, you're living the dream life,
Yeah.
you only work a few hours and you've got all these holidays. And when
Mm.
you dive deeper, that is not the case at all, is it?
No, I mean, I would say two big things come to mind there. It's like the work-life balance. So you're working at 100 miles an hour for
Mm,
term time, and then the opposite is the downtime. So yeah, people might go away or, you've got 2 weeks off, whatever it is. But often that's when teachers will go to the dentist,
mm-hmm,
go to the doctors, get the
mm-hmm.
car fixed, like life admin, because there's no time during term time.
Yes.
And then the other thing is, I always say teaching for me always felt like two full-time jobs in one, because the bit with the children, which is also busy and like I taught in Key Stage 1 predominantly. So you've got the element of like they're learning how to be human alongside
Of course.
learning the academics and whatever. So you have the bit with the children, but then you've got the whole bit after it, which is all the admin, all the behind the scenes stuff. And it's not just lesson planning. I could go on and on and on, but I won't. But there's so much. So to me, it always felt like two separate jobs that overlapped, but
Mm,
it was like, okay, the kids are gone. So now here's the whole next chunk of
mm.
stuff that needs doing. So,
I
yeah.
suppose as well, what I've noticed with my clients is you're switching from different energies. You're in
Mm,
the classroom and you're picking up energies from the children and trying to keep the
yeah.
children under control. Then you're trying to please leadership and make
Mm,
sure you're following all the,
yeah.
what the direction. And then you've got to please the parents.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing for me, and this is when we come to talk a bit more about positive psychology and
Mm,
well-being, like one of the big measurable factors is relationships.
mm.
Education is all
All
about
about relationships.
relationships. I will die on the hill of you will be a great teacher if you're great at building relationships with the children. They don't want to learn from somebody they don't like. We don't want to
No,
learn from
I
somebody
don't
we don't
either.
like. So I'm thinking about, like you said, you've got the relationships with the kids, relationships with the team, relationships with parents. But if you think about that in a day to day thing, I would go into the classroom and have 24 children. That's 24 different relationships, not even their learning pathways, who they are as a person, eye to eye, and have relationships with them. So, like you say, the energy of it, you're flicking between those relationships like filing cabinets in your head all day,
Love
every
it.
day. And then when you meet the team, there might be four, and you've got four different relationships going on in terms of I'm planning this with this person, I'm doing this project with this person, I've got this running with this person. It's just never ending. So you think about the mental capacity and how tiring that can be, as well as joyous. There's lots of joy and all that amongst it. But it's mentally a lot, and I'm sure in other industries when you're working in, say, finance, and it's just the constant computerization of the number systems
Numbers
and whatever. But relationships to me is there's such a human thing about it, obviously. And yeah, I think that's where the energy I had left none
comes
for
into it.
myself, maybe. For me, my relationship with myself was
Well, that's
depleted.
huge, isn't
Yeah.
it? It is your relationship. So,
Mm.
what would you actually say now to an educator that's listening and resonates with some
Mm,
of the points you've touched on? At what point would you say, "Yeah, it's time I spoke to somebody," and who would that
yeah.
somebody be? You
It's
know?
such a good question, because I always talk about, again, when I come back to positive psychology,
Mm,
it's about, and especially in education, it's preventative,
yeah.
So I actually feel like everyone can benefit from having some sort of talking therapy in their life, whether it's coaching, transformational coaching, healing sessions, full blown leadership coaching, whatever it is.
Should be part of life. I look
Totally.
back and think, why were we never taught
I
this?
know.
I
So,
didn't really get into it. I've
yeah.
always done meditation and things
Mm,
since I was about 18. But all these different types of modalities that
yeah.
are available, why? I
I
just don't
know. Well,
understand.
that's it. The landscape's changing. Education, if you look at it over the last 100
Mm,
years, a lot of it stayed very similar, but now
yeah.
there's things we can't get away from, like
Mm,
AI and technology at such a rapid rate. The growth is out of this world. But I also feel like that about the human side and
mm,
well-being. So for me, that's always going to be there. There's
mm,
always going to be people. So
yeah.
now, to me, there should be a shift in that. I would always say now, talk to someone now, not just when something goes wrong or you're not feeling great.
Till it's got to the point that it
Yeah,
got with us where
that
you just,
yeah.
what do you think, like you just said then about AI, what do you
Mm,
actually think about these, you know what I'm going to say,
yeah.
don't you?
Do.
And, obviously I've got to be a bit careful, but what do
Mm.
you think about children interacting with AI and being told to talk to AI?
I mean, firstly, I would say, well, why would somebody be telling a child to talk to AI? And I know that they'll do it, of course. Like when we're younger, we can think of the things we weren't supposed to do and we
Mm,
wanted to do it because we got told not to. So it's not that. They are going to interact
they
with
are,
it,
but
but
there's apps now that,
yeah.
and maybe I'm just old fashioned, I'm
Yeah.
49,
No.
but even when I see my clients, I get a different opinion of what they're going through from
Mm,
seeing them face to face than I do like online,
yeah.
because I can
Yeah, of
tell how
course.
you're looking at me, where you're looking, where your hands are, what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think when it comes to AI and the apps and talking to AI and everything, it's going to happen. My thing is always around the adults around the children. It's the education of the adults.
yeah,
It's the e-safety. Some
yeah,
schools are so great at developing e-safety programs.
yeah.
And something that I always come back to, and I've done digital awareness talks in
Mhm.
school about this. And it was really funny because I was showing them like a VCR or a DVD player, and they're like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Well, that's what technology
Yeah,
looked like when I was younger."
typewriter.
Yeah, and like showing them the difference, but then talking about the inner voice and, hearing that intuition and that gut feeling of this doesn't feel right,
Mm.
and of course, when they're young, they're so susceptible. So a long form AI
Yeah,
platform
yeah, yeah.
will share, you know,
Well, that's why I'm
conversational things, but
so fascinated with what you've actually done
yeah,
and created, because like I was saying, I don't think talking about your problems to an app, it might work for some people, but
yeah,
I believe in being able to express your feelings to a grown up, to your peers,
yeah.
to as a child,
And the reason why some people might approach AI is because it's uncomfortable. And when
to
you're
be able to
speaking on a
say it.
platform, it's like, it's just you and the device.
Mm,
So I think what my work is, and this is why I had
you
initially
set
written
up.
one of the books, is because if we start from the beginning, as soon as, children have emotions before they have language.
Yeah.
So, but it's even if we set up a real open way of communicating and articulating emotions and things like that, it's not then stigmatized or
No.
taboo, or, and we're getting much better at this as a collective humanity. But
Is that what powered you to then take the leap of faith and set up your own business?
in a way, a little bit, yeah, because when I went through some of the things that I did myself, I
Mm,
was like, I don't want children to, you know, experience this.
mm,
And then I've got to the point, well, they are going to experience hardship and adversity. That's life. But to me, when I learned about the wellbeing science and interventions, and it's can be preventative. So that's why I'm thinking, if there's like a wellbeing curriculum that goes beyond little activities here and there, then they can be like, oh, actually, I've learned about my character strengths and this is happening with my friend. What strengths can I use here to help me? So it really supports the psychological and subjective well-being anyway, but it was partly like that. So I got from well, I can't save the world, but I'm like, here's
Yeah.
some things I can share. And
Yeah,
what I
and if you can
loved
do your bit in the meantime, that's
exactly.
wonderful, isn't
And
it?
what I really loved about, I made most of this stuff when I was still teaching, and it was like me in real time learning about the well-being science and the benefits and how like magical to me it is, and then translating it into a way that I felt I would be able to teach the children about it. So I was in year one when I wrote the first book, and yes, there's lots of books about emotions and things like that. And I wanted to have a resource that I could show the children and say, I used my strength of
Mm,
creativity to make this. Like, look.
mm.
And then the picture book element is so a parent or a child have that tool to as a starting
As a
point, is
start.
a yeah, to open up the dialogue so that then they don't get to nine and be like, oh, I don't know who to ask about this. I'm going to ask AI,
That I
So
really am very passionate about that. I really
mm,
am. So what was the like when you first took that leap, did you have any clients? Had you lined yourself up? Was it really
yeah, it
scary?
was
Because
scary.
I know
So
when I did, like, I was like, you just take this and then you're like, right, I'm in this now. I've got
yeah.
to like
So I mean,
get it going.
the school were so great again. They're like, you're going to be fine. And I went through this whole roller coaster
Mm.
of, have I done the right thing? I've left like a really great school, a really great secure package, all of the things. And then I was going to work in a wellbeing centre with one of the directors, used to be a counsellor also in one of the schools, did the same masters and then started this company. It's called the Free Spirit Collective in
Okay.
City Walk, and it's brilliant. Like, it's
Mm.
just lovely, their whole ethos and everything. And Mark Samway's there, the director of schools and wellbeing, was like, you can come here, there will be work for you here. So that was almost like before I got to my own business, I was here and it started to experience life outside of the education sector, which can be so insular. So I had clients through there. I had been coaching anyway, but I had clients through that centre. But I know that the way that the organizations tend to work in that helping profession, sometimes there's not a salary. It's like you work as you earn.
And you're like, "Ugh." Do you
So
know?
that was new.
Yeah, but like you've just said, then how things flow. Don't you
Mm,
think that once you've made, and it seems to be sometimes in the well-being
mm,
sector, but once you've decided to do it, nothing you planned works out. But
yeah.
all these people just appear in your life and opportunities, and
Yeah.
suddenly it's coming to you with ease.
I know, which is so true. And again, I feel like I've been so lucky in the sense the company there that I was working for were also so supportive. And I'm like, I think I'm going to start my own thing. I want to do the after school clubs. I want to do coaching one to one in schools. I want to do corporate work. I want to do this, that. And they were like, okay, like try
Yeah,
it. Like we're here. And then that's when a year back in November, so it's a year and a few months old,
yeah,
Greenheart, and that's completely on my own.
yeah.
So a big leap again, but a shorter time. Whereas this one in education, it took me 14, 15 years. This time it was around 2 years. And now I'm like, okay, it's just me.
Yeah, and
So,
that's kind of that's an inspiration. It's
mhm,
inspirational, isn't it? To
yeah,
know that somebody can do that and it does work out. Follow your
yeah.
dreams, take the leap of
Well, that's
faith.
it. And I feel like I always had this thing
I
inside
did
me like,
too.
yeah, like you know where you need to go, you know where you want to
Where
be.
you want,
So go for it. If it doesn't work, you're still going to be fine. You can go back to teaching, go back to
of
Scotland, back to
course,
corporate.
the
Yeah.
opportunities are endless, then, aren't there?
Yeah.
And I always say now that I want to be the healer that I once desperately needed,
Yeah.
because I got to the point where I was, and it was my own fault for taking on so much responsibility.
Yeah.
My husband working away, my son,
Mm.
and I got to the point of having panic attacks,
Oh gosh,
and
yeah.
then I'd sit outside work, even the wellness centre, right in the very beginning.
Mm.
I'd sit outside with a bit of anxiety, going,
Yeah.
right, I can do this, and then
Mm.
I'd go in and it was all okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized that I got healing out of healing people.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. I think one of the things about Greenheart, and I always want to emphasize this, it's science and soul, which normally are polarized, but actually no, for Greenheart,
Mm,
science and soul, but also to be of service, to be pro-social and earn money.
yeah.
Like I think this whole thing about and you definitely come across it in education. The package for the counsellors is always way less than a class teacher, and they hire maybe a local contract and
This
things.
is
And
the
I'm like,
thing,
but
isn't it? So
why?
that it's not
Yeah.
attractive then to, there's no attraction to it. S-
So to be of service and really ensure that anyone that comes in contact to Greenheart feels safe, feels
Correct.
whether it's someone that's working with
Feel
us, a
safe and
parent, or
non-judgmental. I think that's
yeah,
important too,
yeah,
isn't it? So
yeah.
you do like the after school clubs,
Hmm.
which is, I think is a, I wish there'd have been something like that when my son was at school,
Yeah.
because I had to do the well-being with him, and you don't always take that from your parent, do you?
Mm,
You know, I used to take him to the meditation classes with me, and he go,
yeah.
I don't want to go, and then he'd be drifted off when he got
Yeah.
there. So you do the after school clubs,
Yeah.
and you work with parents one to one for the children's coaching.
I actually work with children one to one.
Ah,
Yeah,
right.
so
That's super
I know, which is
interesting.
lovely. So I work with children one to one in school, so during school time. So the same that maybe an OT would come in, a speech and language therapist would come in. I come in as a well-being coach.
Okay.
What I really am is a positive psychology
Yeah.
coach, but it's too much of a mouthful for the kids. I just would rather it's called well-being coach. And again, I'll work closely with counsellors, and it's maybe for it's just another option for parents. Sometimes the counsellors want to be in the classes and do talks and everything, but they're overrun again. Like,
Yeah.
they've maybe got a caseload that's full. So then they also have me on file as an option and say, well, this is also available should you like your child to work with someone. Or maybe the counsellor might be trying to discharge them from the comfort around having the counsellor available.
Hmm.
And then wellbeing coaching is like another option. So I work with the children
And
still.
then do you speak to the parents and try and get them to follow?
Yeah, yeah. So part of my approach is then, I'll speak with parents
Yeah.
initially, just find out what it
What's
is that
going
they're
on?
looking, for support with or for to help the child or what they want them to learn about.
Mm.
And often parents are already doing a great job, but again, it's like everything, there's no
You need a
manual.
little.
So
There
it's
is no
like,
manual, is that?
no, so it's like we'll chat about it, and then after each session,
You can like give
I'll
them tips and tools
yeah, and I'll
of what
just
you've
say,
done and what they've said.
yeah, I'll say things like maybe, oh, we've worked on some mindful activities, or we learned some breathing strategies, or we talked about savoring, or we learned about gratitude, three good things. So we always do, like, of course, because it's children, like art activities or crafts or games or something within the one to one. And they take that home again because I want them to tell their parents. So, of course, I'll email, but I want them
Yeah.
immediately to go home and say, I've been learning about this. And then hopefully the strategy or whatever it is will be
You
reinforced
can
by
bring
the
it back at home
parents.
because it has to be reinforced back at home,
Yeah.
doesn't it? One thing I used to do with my son, and it worked so well, but I came up with this myself. It wasn't anything I'd read in a book. A really good friend of ours bought us some children's Doreen Virtue angel cards.
Okay, yeah, nice.
So we used to choose one before bedtime and
Mhm.
like look into the card, and it might be do your homework, get more sleep, and then we talk. It was a way that we could start
Yeah.
talking about things, but my son didn't realize it was us having a conversation.
Yeah, of
I
course.
don't whatever, God forbid, have a
Oh, I
conversation with my
know.
mum.
And
And
it's so funny you say that because I'm like, nighttime is the time for kids. Like,
yeah,
that's when it all comes out, whether it's they're
isn't it?
fighting sleep or whatever. But they're like, no, I'm just going to tell you about this.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, go on.
So
So,
that's
yeah.
what made me fascinated with these cards that you've created.
Yeah.
Tell me now, I'm so interested in it. I just wish there'd have been something like this around when my son
Mm.
was younger. I was the one creating everything. And you've got emo beans.
Yeah, the emo
How
beads.
cool is that?
Oh, do you know, so I just want to say also, I love what you've said about angel cards and things. I have
Yeah.
all of the decks under the
Oh,
sun, but it
brilliant.
was always something I was really cautious of taking into the classroom.
Exactly.
So
You can't, can you? Because there's like a bit of
yeah, and
stigma
of
about, not everybody
course, and
believes
fair
in
enough,
angels and
that's it. And each family's different. So again, I think that's where the cards initially came from because I was so used to doing things myself. And then I thought, how can I bring the character strengths? Well, I'll make some cards. I'll make my own cards with them. But the emo beans came first. So again, it was just this. it came through me. I wouldn't say it was like, I always knew I wanted to write a children's book. Like I was saying, I wanted a resource with positive psychology focus
Mhm.
for the children to translate the science. And I was just doodling and I was thinking about little beings. I think I said to you before, when I was growing up, there was like a RE program or religious education program that talked about little beings. And I'm like, okay, so that already exists somewhere. So what is it? Beings, beans, beans, emotional beans, emo beans. So it came that way. And I'd written the story, done some doodles, but then when I was looking for an illustrator, because they're self-published, so I was looking for an illustrator, spoke to some people via Upwork, which is like an online platform. And then I met Christian, and when we were chatting, he was just so lovely. And behind him, there was like little trays of beans growing in his kitchen. I was just like, well, it's you.
Well, there you go then.
I know. But he just really seen the story. So the illustrations for me are like almost the favorite part because yes, the emo beans, and they talk about feelings. We start with the 6 basic emotions, which the kids are familiar with from Inside Out. But I also didn't want to prescribe different colors for different
Yeah.
emotions. I'm like, that all comes from the child. And
Yeah.
this just supports their development around emotional literacy and how they express. And the book was the initial thing. So one child came in on World Book Day dressed as an emo bean. And honestly, I can't tell you, it was like my favourite thing. You know, when they all come in dressed like Alice in Wonderland or whatever, but to see this like green outfit with a big cardboard green emo bean on the front, I was like, amazing.
Oh,
So
can
that's
I
where they
choose
came
a
from.
card?
Oh my gosh, of
Go on,
course.
get a card out. Let me
So
choose one.
the character strength cards, this is the thing I could talk about forever. And
Are
that's
these like, do
why
these like give you messages?
kind of.
Okay, let's
So
have a card.
the second Emo Beans book is about the character strengths because I want children to know all the strengths they've got inside them. We're not just skills and talents, we've got all of these as well.
Okay.
So I never made up these 24 strengths. It's a positive psychology
Okay. Yeah.
concept. Each card, I've got words that you know,
Yep.
familiar with, but you've got a strength of honesty. I've got a strength of honesty. So there's a survey you can do to find out the order of their
Okay.
strengths. So I've been doing this actually this week on social media is picking a strength of the day.
Okay.
So today my strength is the strength of zest. So it's like, what better thing to be going to talk to Jane? So if
What do I need to do? Just
you just
select one?
shuffle them and
Shuffle
pick
them?
one, and I'm like,
This is exciting.
you've got them all, but
Yeah.
if this is how I used to do with the children, I'd be like, somebody come and pick a card, and that's the strength we're going to look at
Right. Well, the
today.
pink one, my favourite
Okay,
colour is standard. Gratitude.
there you go.
Okay, gratitude. Being aware of things to be thankful for in life and appreciating them, which I really should do more, but I am aware of it.
Yeah,
I do
that's
go through
it,
my
of
gratitude
course.
and I'm slipping on it a little bit. List lots of things you are grateful for. Maybe you could write 3 a day for a week. How would you help someone else experience more gratitude? Who would appreciate a gratitude letter for? I'm going to write somebody a gratitude
Oh,
letter.
do I'd
Yeah.
love that.
And the single greatest thing you can do to change your life today would be to start being grateful for what you have right now. Right. I'm grateful for this conversation, this
Me
opportunity for
too.
us to have had this, and be able to raise awareness because ultimately
Uh-huh.
that's what I'm doing this for. I'm passionate about
Yeah,
raising awareness for well-being in education.
love that.
So, if anybody would like to find out more about Ashley's services and Greenheart Wellbeing, please do get in touch. And for anybody who would like to join me on an upcoming wellbeing podcast, get in touch with Quantum Media. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for